The applause hit like a wave, loud and proud, but Maya felt as if she were drowning under it. She stood at the back of the grand conference hall, pressed between two tall banners that displayed the company logo in bright silver letters. On the massive screen at the front, her work glowed in clean slides and bold graphs. Years of research, endless revisions. Long nights with cold coffee and tired eyes. Only one name appeared under the title. Daniel Harper. Her breath slowed, then stalled. Daniel stood at the center of the stage, straight-backed and calm, holding the award in both hands. The spotlight washed over him, sharp and white. He smiled in that modest way he had perfected over the years, as if recognition embarrassed him. The board members beamed. Investors nodded. Cameras flashed. No one looked toward the back of the hall where the real architect of the project stood silent and unseen. 6 months earlier, Maya had walked into Daniel's office with the first full draft of her breakthrough proposal. She remembered the way her hands shook, not from fear, but from excitement. She had built the framework from scratch. She had studied patterns others ignored. She had found a solution that could shift the company's future. Daniel had leaned back in his chair, eyes sharp, and listened without interrupting. When she finished, he had smiled in genuine admiration. "You've got something powerful here," he said. "Let's refine it, refine it." That word became their rhythm. Week after week, they met behind closed doors. Maya adjusted slides, sharpened arguments, strengthened projections. Daniel suggested changes, but the core idea stayed hers. He told her the board wasn't ready yet. "They trust experience," he said. "Timing matters. I'll introduce it carefully," she believed. She trusted the way he defended her ideas in smaller meetings. She trusted how he spoke of her potential. She trusted his promise that when the moment came, she would stand beside him. Now he stood alone. The applause continued, rolling through the hall like thunder. Maya forced herself to breathe. She wanted to walk out. She wanted to shout. But her legs refused to move. She watched as Daniel lifted the award slightly, acknowledging the crowd. On the screen behind him, her opening slide appeared, the one she had designed during a stormy night when the power flickered in her apartment, and she worked by the glow of a battery lamp. He did not stumble over the explanation. He did not hesitate. He spoke with confidence, using phrases she had written word for word. Something inside her tightened. A memory rose uninvited. 2 months ago, she had asked him directly, "Will I be presenting this to the board?" Daniel had paused, then offered a patient smile. "Let me handle the first round. It will be easier that way. Once they see the value, you'll step forward." She had nodded, grateful. But there had been no second round, no shared spotlight, no introduction that included her name. Instead, there was this, a clean theft, dressed in strategy. She scanned the crowd. Colleagues she had brainstormed with, analysts who had watched her build the early models. Some of them looked confused. A few avoided eye contact. Others seemed unaware of anything unusual. In corporate spaces, truth often blurred beneath authority. Daniel reached the end of his speech. The host returned to the stage and praised his visionary leadership. Leadership. The word echoed bitterly in her mind. For a brief second, Daniel's eyes shifted toward the back of the room. They locked with hers. Time slowed. His expression changed. Not dramatically, not enough for others to notice, but she saw it. A flicker. A flash of discomfort. Then it was gone, replaced by composure. He knew she was there. He knew she understood. The ceremony ended in a flood of congratulations. People rushed forward to shake his hand. Maya stepped aside as they passed, their shoulders brushing against her. Snippets of conversation floated through the air. Brilliant strategy. Bold thinking. Exactly what the company needed. Each compliment felt like a quiet strike. She moved toward the exit before anyone could corner her with questions. The hallway outside was cooler, quieter. Her heels clicked sharply against the polished floor. She reached the restroom, locked herself in a stall, and leaned against the wall. She didn't cry. Tears would have been easier instead. A steady heat spread through her chest, not explosive anger, not loud outrage. Just a slow burn. She replayed the past year with sharp clarity. The weekends she canceled plans, the family gatherings she missed, the nights she stayed in the office long after the lights dimmed. Daniel had often been the last to leave with her. He would stand by her desk reviewing charts, praising her drive. "We'll change everything," he used to say. He was right, but not in the way she imagined. When she returned to the hall, most guests had moved to the reception area. She spotted Daniel surrounded by senior executives. He laughed easily, holding a glass of sparkling water. For a moment, he looked exactly like the mentor she once admired. Calm, strategic, certain. Had he planned this from the beginning? The thought chilled her. Maybe he had convinced himself it was necessary. Maybe he believed the company would never trust a younger analyst to lead such a major initiative. Maybe he told himself he would credit her later. But he had not warned her. He had not prepared her. He had not even offered a conversation. That was the sharpest cut. As she turned to leave, someone called her name. It was Thomas from the data team. His expression held awkward sympathy. "Hey," he said quietly, glancing toward Daniel. "I thought you were presenting today." "So did I," she replied, keeping her voice steady. Thomas hesitated. "It was your framework, right?" She met his eyes. "Yes." He nodded slowly, as if confirming something he already knew. I'm sorry the words were soft, but they grounded her. She wasn't imagining it. She wasn't being dramatic. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a decision. Back in her apartment that evening, city lights blinked beyond her window. She dropped her bag on the couch and stood still in the center of the room. Silence pressed in. Her laptop sat on the desk. Almost without thinking, she opened it. The award ceremony had already been uploaded to the company's internal platform. She watched Daniel's speech again, this time from the beginning. Every sentence was polished, every slide seamless. He thanked his team, but never named her. Not once. Her jaw tightened. She opened her old project folder. Draft 1, Draft 2. Version 3 with handwritten notes in the margins. Email threads, where Daniel wrote, "This is groundbreaking, Maya." Voice messages where he said, "We'll present this together." Together, the word felt hollow now. Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel, proud of how far the project has come. "Let's talk tomorrow." No mention of the stage. No acknowledgement of what had happened. She stared at the message for a long time before placing the phone face down. Sleep did not come easily. When it did, it was restless. She dreamed of standing on stage, mouth open, but no sound coming out. Morning arrived too quickly. At the office, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Emails flooded inboxes praising Daniel's leadership. The company's social media highlighted his achievement. His photo filled the homepage. Maya walked to her desk quietly. A few coworkers offered careful smiles. Some avoided her altogether. Daniel appeared near noon. He approached her desk with measured steps. "Can we talk?" he asked. She followed him into his office, the same room where the idea had first taken. He closed the door gently. "Yesterday was intense," he began. "I know you might feel sidelined, but this was about positioning." "Positioning?" She folded her arms. "Positioning for who?" "For the company," he replied smoothly. "The board needed reassurance. Once this stabilizes, we'll highlight your role more publicly." More publicly. She studied his face. He looked sincere, calm, certain that he was managing a situation rather than confronting wrongdoing. "You told me we'd present together," she said. He exhaled slowly. "Plans evolve. I had to make a call." A call. As if her years of effort were a minor adjustment. He leaned forward. Trust me, Maya. This benefits both of us. Long term. Trust. The word felt different now. Heavy, fragile, she left his office with a polite nod. But something fundamental had shifted. The mentor she admired was no longer standing in front of her. In his place was someone capable of taking what wasn't his and explaining it as strategy back at her desk. She opened a blank document. She typed her name at the top. Maya Rowe, seeing. If there steadied her. She didn't want noise. She didn't want chaos. She also didn't want silence. As the day moved on, congratulations continued to pour in for Daniel. Investors scheduled follow-up calls. The project expanded. And beneath the surface, beneath the polished announcements and smiling photos, a quiet transformation began. The betrayal did not break her. It clarified her. The applause from the night before it still echoed in her memory, but it no longer sounded like celebration. It sounded like a challenge. If he believed she would stay quiet, he didn't know her at all, standing at her desk, staring at the city skyline through the glass walls of the office. Maya made a silent promise to herself. She would not be erased, and she would not forget. Maya stopped reacting. That was the first change people noticed. She no longer questioned Daniel in meetings. She no longer stayed late in his office debating strategy. She no longer defended her ideas out loud. Instead, she listened. She took notes. She watched. Inside. However, her thoughts moved fast and sharp. The betrayal had settled into something colder than anger. It was focus. Each morning she arrived early. The office lights flickered on one by one as she reviewed files from the original project. She organized every draft she had written, every timestamp document, every early model saved under her login. She built a private archive on an encrypted drive. Not out of impulse, out of discipline. If she chose to speak, she would speak with proof. Daniel noticed the quiet shift. He passed her desk more often. He asked if she was doing okay. His tone carried concern, but his eyes searched for something else. Reassurance. That she would not challenge him. "I'm fine," she would say calmly. And she was, in a way. Calm did not mean healed. Calm meant controlled. In meetings, Daniel continued presenting expansions of the project. He adjusted numbers, refined forecasts, added layers to the framework she had designed. The structure was still hers, but he shaped it confidently, as if it had always belonged to him. Maya watched closely. She noticed the small flaws creeping in. Assumptions stretched too thin. Risks glossed over. Daniel's confidence sometimes outran the data. That was when the second thought entered her mind. Revenge did not have to be loud. It could be precise. She could expose him publicly, yes. But she could also let him stumble on his own exaggerations. All she had to do was remain silent and allow the pressure of expansion to reveal cracks. The idea tempted her, but silence also meant surrendering her voice. One evening, after most employees had left, Maya remained at her desk reviewing updated projections Daniel had sent to investors. The numbers didn't align with the original research. He had pushed growth targets higher than her data supported. Her jaw tightened. Was he overpromising to secure attention? Or did he truly believe the risk was worth it? She opened her original files and compared them line by line. The difference was clear. He had adjusted assumptions to make the outcome more dramatic. If the project failed under those projections, fallout would hurt everyone. Revenge suddenly felt less personal and more dangerous. Her phone buzzed. A message from Alina. "You're still at work, aren't you?" Maya smiled faintly and replied, "Yes. Are you planning something?" Maya paused before typing back. "I'm thinking." Alina called immediately. "Don't let this consume you," she said gently. "Know you're hurt, but don't become someone you don't recognize." "I'm not trying to destroy him," Maya replied. "I just want the truth seen." Truth is powerful. Alina said. But how you reveal it matters. The call ended, leaving Maya alone. With her thoughts. How she revealed it. That became the new question. The company announced a global summit. Scheduled in 2 months. Daniel would present the next stage of the initiative to international partners. The event would be streamed live. Board members from overseas would attend. Investors would evaluate long-term funding. It was the largest stage yet. Maya felt the weight of it immediately. If there was ever a moment to correct the narrative, it would be there. She requested access to the shared presentation file under the pretense of updating supporting analytics. Daniel approved without hesitation. He still believed she would reinforce. His message, the trust he placed in her access, felt almost ironic. Over the following weeks, Maya worked in 2 worlds. In one, she fulfilled her role with quiet professionalism, refining charts and clarifying risk factors. In the other, she built a clean timeline of the project's origin, dated drafts. Internal emails, meeting notes that documented her authorship. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't manipulate. She simply organized. At night, alone in her apartment, she rehearsed possible outcomes. She presented the evidence during the summit. Daniel's reputation would fracture instantly. The board would question his integrity. Media outlets could pick up the story. His career might never recover. Did he deserve that? The question refused to leave. She remembered his early support, the way he had once defended her ideas when others dismissed them. She remembered how proud he looked the first time her model predicted results accurately. He hadn't always been selfish. Somewhere along the way, ambition had overtaken integrity. But ambition did not erase accountability. Daniel, meanwhile, felt tension building. Maya's composure unsettled him more than confrontation would have. He reviewed his emails late at night, scanning for anything that might appear damaging if surfaced. He told himself she wouldn't go that far. She was rational, strategic, loyal. Yet doubt crept in. He justified his actions repeatedly. The board trusted him because of his history. Investors listened to him because of his experience. He believed that if Maya had presented alone, the project might have been dismissed. In his mind, he had ensured its survival. But survival without honesty came at a cost. 2 weeks before the summit, Maya tested a version of the presentation with her added timeline slide. It appeared subtle at first glance, a clean visual progression of the project's development. But her name appeared clearly at the beginning, repeated through early stages before Daniel's name joined later. It wasn't an attack, it was context. Still, context could feel like exposure. Her finger hovered over the save button. She imagined the live audience, the silence, the shift in Daniel's posture, the realization spreading across board members' faces. Her heart raced. Was she ready to carry the weight of that moment? She closed her laptop without saving. The next day, Daniel invited her into his office unexpectedly. "I want you to speak. At the summit," he said. 5 minutes. Present the updated analytics. The offer surprised her. Why? She asked carefully. "Because you know the data best," he replied. "And it's time the team sees your contribution." The words sounded generous, but she sensed calculation beneath them. Perhaps he felt pressure. Perhaps he sensed the need to appear collaborative. "Will my role be acknowledged clearly?" she asked. Daniel hesitated just long enough for her to notice. "Of course," he said finally. Of course, she left his office with mixed emotions. The opportunity could restore balance, but was it sincere or strategic defense? That night, she revisited the timeline slide, instead of framing it as exposure. She adjusted the language. She removed any implication of accusation. She focused on evolution, how ideas grow through stages and contributors. She saved the file this time. Days passed quickly. Preparations intensified. Daniel rehearsed his speech repeatedly. Maya practiced her section, keeping her tone steady and precise. Yet doubt lingered. On the eve of the summit, She stood by her apartment window, city lights stretching endlessly below. She asked herself a simple question. What do you want tomorrow? Not revenge, not humiliation. She wanted recognition. She wanted fairness. She wanted the truth visible without destroying everything attached to it. The distinction mattered at the venue. The next morning, energy buzzed through the halls. Screens displayed the company logo. Attendees moved briskly between sessions. Daniel adjusted his tie backstage. Maya reviewed her slides one final time. He approached her quietly. "We're a strong team," he said, as if reminding both of them. She met his gaze. "Teams share credit." A flicker of discomfort crossed his face. "Yes," he replied softly. Moments later, the event began. As Daniel stepped onto the stage, the lights dimmed and applause rose. Aya stood in the wings, watching. He delivered his opening with confidence, outlining growth, vision, expansion. Then he said her name, for the data. "Architecture and original framework," he announced. "I want to acknowledge Maya Rowe." A spotlight shifted briefly toward her. The applause was polite but real. It was not everything, but it was something. When her turn came, she walked onto the stage with steady steps. The massive screen behind her displayed the timeline slide. A ripple moved through the audience as they read it. She felt Daniel tense slightly beside her. She began calmly. "Innovation begins with questions. This project started as a research exploration into patterns we hadn't fully understood. Over time, it evolved through collaboration." She clicked through the early drafts. Her name visible, without emphasis. She did not accuse. She did not attack. She simply told the story of how the idea grew. The room listened. Carefully in that moment, Maya realized something powerful. Revenge thrives on destruction. Truth thrives on clarity. By choosing clarity, she shifted the balance without igniting chaos. When the presentation ended, applause filled the hall again. Not thunderous, but steady and respectful. Backstage, Daniel approached her slowly. "You handled that well," he said. "So did you," she replied. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was movement. As the summit continued, investors asked thoughtful questions. Board members discussed transparency and collaboration. The narrative had shifted. Maya's role was no longer invisible. That evening, alone in her hotel room, she sat quietly. The urge to fully expose him had faded. Not because she lacked proof, but because she had achieved something stronger than spectacle. She had reclaimed her voice without becoming cruel. And in that balance, she felt something new replacing the cold focus that had driven her for weeks. Not satisfaction, not triumph,